Hello and welcome to a celebratory episode of the Tech Exec podcast. This is a special one. First of all, as you know, I'm your host, Aviv Ben-Yosef, advisor and coach to tech executives worldwide. And on this episode, we're celebrating two things. First of all, it just so happens to be the 200th episode of this podcast. And second, as I'm recording this, this is the week where my new book, Capitalizing Your Technology to Disrupt and Dominate Your Markets, will be published. So, lots of reasons to celebrate going around. If you haven't yet, do check out the pre-order, which I'm going to extend by a few days so you can still grab your pre-order benefits, even if you order just a bit after the pre-orders are closed. So check out capitalizing.tech and let's talk about the 200th episode and a bit about consistency as part of it. So I'm very excited. I started this exactly 200 weeks ago, which means we're getting close to 4 years. As far as I recall, I never skipped a week. I do record some of these in advance, so I have a buffer. But if you've registered, if you've subscribed 200 episodes ago, since then, you got your new episode like clockwork every week, same time. And I'm just really excited about that. I mean, 4 years ago, right? We were before COVID. I had no books out, if you're not counting my AngularJS book. Things were completely different on my end. Things were different all over the place. So, been a ride. I can't wait to see what we're going to find out in the next 200 episodes together. And as part of that, I want to talk about consistency. This is going to be your takeaway today. Sometimes all you need to do in order to make great progress is to find the little thing, the little habit that you can stick to consistently, as opposed to finding the grand gesture that makes you feel like you're doing something, but you're not gonna stick to it more than a week or two. And I think this podcast for me is a good example because at the get-go, I said, okay, I want to do this consistently. Therefore, episodes are going to be very, very short, shorter than I'm guessing most of the podcasts you subscribe to, because I just want to deliver one morsel of advice and get on with my life and let you get on with your life. And also, I decided I'm not going to bring in any guests because that means I'll have to schedule it and it's going to be a lot longer and will take a lot more of my time. So I found the format that makes sense for me, and so far so good. And you can do the same. When we want to create a new habit, again, we always look at those people who have been doing things for a long while and we're like, oh, wow, I could never do that. But it all starts with that simple step. It all starts with that simple habit that you can stick to. And if you break it, don't break it twice, as they say. Now, I have another great example of consistency, and that is I've been getting facial treatments over the past year or so. And one of the things that I wanted them to help me with was the fact that I had this sunspot on my face. It was growing darker with time and it was really annoying me. And as I was discussing options, one of the options was they can do this big treatment. They basically burn your face to burn it off, and then hopefully it doesn't grow again and that sort of stuff. And you basically have to stay at home for a week or two after it, and a bunch of, a big mess. And they told me, but if you're willing to stick to a simple process, we can try something else. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm the process guy. Shoot. And they gave me like a few creams that I had to put on every day with a few minutes in between. And you know what I did? I did precisely that. I have an iOS shortcut because I'm a geek that I just started. It reminds me exactly which cream to put on after how many minutes have passed. And I just do it really, really consistently. I'm guessing that over 6 months, I missed it maybe a handful of times because I was traveling or something. And when it came time for my next facial and I got there, everyone there, they were all coming to look at me and say, oh my God, look at that. It really worked. You can barely see it. They shoot me for the Instagram, that sort of stuff. I'm like, okay, that's nice. Yeah, I did make great progress. I'm pleased with it. But I asked them, why are we so surprised? Why are we celebrating something? You gave me something. Are we surprised that it worked? I mean, Is that not what we were supposed to see? What's the big woof? And they told me that essentially no one really sticks to things, and therefore you usually don't see these kinds of results within 3-4 months. Oftentimes it takes a lot longer, if at all, and that is what they see. They very rarely see someone who just commits to something and sticks to it. And you don't need an expensive procedure. You don't need something that basically scars your face to remove another thing. You just need to put on the damn creams a few times a day, and that's it. And my takeaway for you this week is that you need to be consistent if you want to make big changes. Sometimes you need to go for the huge reorg, but oftentimes, probably most times, what you need to do is to find the little steps that you can start taking in order to turn the ship around, in order to start forming the culture you want to see. And the good news is that those don't require a lot of energy. They don't require getting a lot of people persuaded. You just need to find the simple thing that you can stick to. And before you notice it, it's going to be 200 weeks in which you've been making steady progress the entire time. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll be here for the 400th episode as well. If you have any questions or comments, my email is in the show notes and I'd love to hear from you. And if you haven't yet, do check out my new book, capitalizing.tech. Gotta love those new domains. And my newsletter, the best newsletter online for tech executives, link in the show notes. Thank you. See you here next week.